If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. What? Kill the Buddha? These strange words might be the last thing you expected to hear tonight. Especially here in a place called Moonmine Temple, where you came seeking peace. But stay with me for just a moment, because this shocking statement from an ancient Zen master named Linji holds a secret. A secret that might explain why you're still awake at this hour, still searching, still feeling like peace is just out of reach. You see, you've probably tried everything by now, haven't you? The meditation apps with their soothing voices, the self-help books stacked on your nightstand, the YouTube gurus promising inner peace in 7 easy steps. And yet here you are. What if I told you that all that searching, all that looking outside yourself for the answer, is exactly what Linji was warning about? Take a gentle breath right now. Let yourself settle into wherever you are. Whether you're lying in bed, sitting in a chair, or walking under the stars. Because what you're about to discover over the next 3 hours isn't another technique to master. It's something much simpler and much more profound. When Linji told his students to kill the Buddha, they were just as confused as you might be. But then he explained, and their confusion turned to understanding, then to relief, then to a kind of freedom they'd never imagined. Tonight, you're going to understand what they understood. Not through complicated philosophy or difficult practices, but through simple stories, gentle wisdom, and the soft rhythm of words that have comforted seekers for over 1,000 years. This isn't about destroying anything sacred. It's about discovering something sacred that's been inside you all along. Something that no app can give you. Something that no teacher can sell you. Something that's already yours. Welcome to Moonmine Temple. Welcome to a different kind of journey. One that doesn't ask you to go anywhere or become anyone. One that simply invites you to remember who you already are beneath all the searching. So let your shoulders drop a little. Let your breath find its own gentle rhythm. And let's discover together why sometimes the most profound truth comes disguised as the most shocking paradox. Your peaceful journey home begins now. It's 3 a.m. again, isn't it? And here you are, phone in hand, scrolling through another list of 10 ways to find inner peace. Your eyes are tired, but your mind won't stop racing. Sound familiar? You've bookmarked so many articles, downloaded apps that promise to teach you meditation in just 5 minutes a day. Maybe you've even bought that expensive cushion, the one that's supposed to make sitting easier. It's probably in the corner of your room right now, holding yesterday's clothes. There's nothing wrong with you for searching. In fact, there's something beautiful about it. 2,500 years ago, a young prince named Siddhartha was doing exactly the same thing. He had everything, wealth, comfort, a loving family, but something inside him knew there had to be more. Just like you know. You feel it when you wake up already exhausted, dreading another day of meetings about meetings. You feel it when you're surrounded by people but somehow still lonely. You feel it in that hollow sensation after finishing another Netflix series, wondering where the evening went. Is this it? You ask yourself, is this all there is? The modern world gives you such interesting answers to that question, doesn't it? Buy this course. Follow this influencer. Try this morning routine. Optimize your life. Hustle harder. Or, and this is the tricky one, meditate more. But here's what nobody tells you about all this searching. Every time you reach for the next solution, you're subtly reinforcing the idea that you're broken, that you need fixing. That peace is something you have to earn, achieve, or purchase. A student once asked a Zen master, "How long will it take me to gain enlightenment?" The master replied, 10 years. The student said, "What if I work really hard?" The master smiled. "Then it will take 20 years. You might laugh at that, or you might feel a little uncomfortable, because it touches something true, doesn't it? The harder you chase peace, the faster it seems to run away. Think about your typical Tuesday. You wake up to an alarm that interrupts a dream you'll never remember. You check your phone before your feet hit the floor. Emails, texts, news that makes your chest tight before you've even had coffee. You move through your morning routine like a choreographed dance you never auditioned for. By noon, you've already told yourself a dozen times that you should meditate. By evening, you've told yourself you'll start tomorrow. By bedtime, you're promising yourself that this weekend for sure, you'll finally get your life together. But weekends come and go like waves on a shore, don't they? And Monday always arrives with its familiar weight. You know what's particularly exhausting about being a modern seeker? It's not just the seeking itself. It's the constant feeling that everyone else has figured it out. Your Instagram feed is full of people in perfect lotus poses, watching perfect sunrises, living their perfect, authentic lives. Meanwhile, you can't even touch your toes. And the last sunrise you saw was because you couldn't sleep. Here's a gentle truth that might help. Those ancient Zen masters, they understood your dilemma perfectly. They knew what it was like to feel caught between who you are and who you think you should be. They just had a different way of working with it. Instead of adding more to their to-do lists, they learned the art of subtraction. Instead of becoming someone special, they discovered how to be beautifully ordinary. Instead of climbing higher, they learned how to settle deeper. There's a Zen saying, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water." At first, this might sound disappointing. Where's the transformation? Where's the special state? Where's the reward for all you're seeking? But sit with it for a moment. What if the transformation isn't about becoming someone else? What if it's about finally being able to chop wood and carry water, or in your case, answer emails and wash dishes, without the constant background noise of, "This isn't enough"? What if peace isn't a destination you're traveling toward, but the ground you're already standing on? You see, every time you download another app or sign up for another course, you're essentially saying, I'll be okay when I master this technique, when I understand this teaching, when I finally get it right. But the ancient masters would gently ask you, what if you're already okay? What if the seeker and the sought are the same? This doesn't mean you should stop learning or growing. It means something much more radical. It means you can learn and grow from a place of wholeness rather than deficiency. You can explore from curiosity rather than desperation. Right now, in this moment, you might notice something interesting. As you've been listening, have you been waiting for the big revelation? The secret technique? The thing that will finally fix everything? That waiting, that leaning forward into the future, that's the seeking mind at work. It's not bad or wrong. It's just a habit. A very human, very understandable habit. But what if, just for this moment, you could let that seeking mind rest? Not forever, just for now. Like setting down a heavy bag you didn't realize you were carrying. Because here's what those Zen masters discovered, and what you're beginning to discover too. The peace you're seeking isn't in the next app or the next teacher. It's in the space between your thoughts. It's in the pause between your breaths. It's in this very moment, just as it is. Even with your tired eyes, even with your racing mind, even with your imperfect meditation practice and your unused cushion, even with all of it. The dilemma of the modern seeker isn't really a dilemma at all. It's an invitation to stop just for a moment and notice what's already here. To realize that maybe, just maybe, you've been looking so hard for home that you forgot you never left. Sometimes the most profound teachings come without any words at all. And perhaps that's why, 2,500 years ago, the Buddha decided to teach his deepest lesson in complete silence. Picture this moment with me. It's early morning on Vulture Peak, a mountain in ancient India. The air is cool and thin. Hundreds of monks have gathered, sitting in their saffron robes, waiting for the Buddha to speak. They've traveled from distant villages, some walking for days, to hear his wisdom. But this morning would be different. The Buddha arrives and takes his seat. Everyone leans forward slightly, ready to catch every word. The most dedicated students have probably brought something to write on, prepared to record another profound discourse. The air itself seems to hold its breath. And then the Buddha does something unexpected. He simply reaches down and picks up a flower, a white lotus that someone had offered him. He holds it up, twirling it gently between his fingers. And he smiles. That's it. No words. No explanation. Just a flower and a smile. You can imagine the confusion, can't you? These devoted students, some of whom have given up everything to follow this teacher, are sitting there waiting for wisdom. And all they get is a flower? Minutes pass. The Buddha continues to hold the flower, that gentle smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Some students probably start shifting uncomfortably. Others might be frantically trying to figure out the meaning. Is the flower a symbol? What does it represent? What are we supposed to understand? The mind does that, doesn't it? When faced with silence, it rushes to fill the space. When presented with simplicity, it searches for complexity. When shown something ordinary, it looks for the extraordinary meaning hidden inside. You felt this yourself. Maybe during a meditation when the instruction was simply to sit and breathe. That's it? Your mind asked. There must be more. A special way to breathe. A particular thing to think about. A goal to achieve. Or perhaps when someone gave you a simple compliment. You look nice today, they said. And instead of just receiving it, your mind started spinning. What do they mean by that? Do I usually not look nice? Are they trying to get something from me? We've become so accustomed to complexity that simplicity feels suspicious. But in that crowd of confused monks, one person understood. His name was Mahakasyapa. And while everyone else was caught in their thinking minds, trying to decode the message, Mahakasyapa simply looked at the Buddha holding the flower. Really looked. And he smiled back. In that moment, something passed between them. Not information, not concepts, not even words. Something more direct than that. Something more intimate than language could ever capture. The Buddha saw Mahakasyapa's smile and nodded. I have the all-pervading true Dharma, incomparable nirvana, exquisite teaching of formless form, he said. It does not rely on words and letters and is transmitted outside all doctrines. I now hand it to Mahakasyapa. What did Mahakasyapa understand that the others missed? He understood that the teaching wasn't about the flower. The teaching was the flower. The entire universe, all of the Buddha's wisdom, everything worth knowing was right there in that simple gesture. You see, the other monks were waiting for the flower to mean something. Mahakasyapa saw that the flower already was something, complete in itself, perfect in its simplicity, not pointing to the truth, but being the truth. Think about your own life for a moment. How often are you like those confused monks, waiting for life to give you its meaning, searching for the message behind every experience, looking so hard for significance that you miss the simple beauty of what's right in front of you? Maybe it happens when your child shows you a drawing. Instead of just seeing the joy in their eyes, you're thinking about whether they're developing properly. Or when your partner reaches for your hand, instead of feeling the warmth of their touch, you're analyzing what it means about your relationship. Even right now, as you listen to these words, where is your mind? Is it here with the story? Or is it already jumping ahead, trying to figure out how to use this information? Planning how you'll explain it to someone else? Judging whether it's profound enough to be worth your time? The thinking mind is always one step removed from life, isn't it? Always commenting, analyzing, judging. This is good, this is bad, this means that, what if this, remember when that. Like a constant narrator in a movie that won't stop talking. But Mahakasyapa's smile came from a different place. It came from direct recognition. Like when you hear a piece of music that moves you to tears before you even know why. Or when you see a sunset that stops you mid-stride, and for just a moment there's no you and no sunset. Just the seeing. This is what Zen calls direct transmission. Heart to heart. Mind to mind. No messenger needed because the message and the messenger are one. Now, you might be thinking, that's beautiful, but I'm not Mahakasyapa. I don't have that kind of spiritual insight. I would have been one of the confused monks, definitely. But here's the gentle secret. You've had Mahakasyapa moments. You've had them your whole life. You just might not have recognized them. Remember when you were a child, lying on grass, watching clouds. There was no purpose to it, no goal, no meaning to extract. Just you and the sky and the simple joy of being alive. That was a flower sermon moment. Or that time when you were heartbroken and a friend sat with you in silence. They didn't try to fix you or offer advice. They just sat there, present with your pain. And somehow, that was exactly what you needed. That was transmission without words. Maybe it was the first time you held your newborn child. All the parenting books you'd read, all the preparation, all the worry, it all fell away. There was just this tiny being in your arms, and you knew something beyond knowing. You understood something that no book could have taught you. Or perhaps it was a moment of loss. When someone you loved was dying, and words became useless. You just held their hand. And in that holding, everything that needed to be said was said. Everything that needed to be known was known. These are your flower sermons. These moments when life breaks through your thinking and touches you directly. When you stop trying to understand and simply are. Even now, as you listen to these words, something deeper might be happening. Beyond the concepts and stories, beyond your agreement or disagreement, there might be a simple recognition, a remembering, like hearing a lullaby from your childhood and suddenly feeling safe again. The Zen tradition that grew from this moment, this flower sermon, is built on this understanding, that the deepest truths can't be captured in words. That real wisdom isn't information you acquire, but something you recognize. That enlightenment isn't about becoming special, but about seeing the specialness that's already everywhere. This is why Zen can seem so frustrating to the thinking mind. It refuses to give you what you think you want, clear instructions, definitive answers, a step-by-step guide to enlightenment. Instead, it keeps pointing you back to this moment, this breath, this simple, ordinary, perfect moment. But I need more than that, your mind might protest. I need techniques. I need practices. I need to know I'm making progress. And yes, Zen has practices. We'll explore them together. But they're all in service of this same simple recognition that Mahakasyapa had. They're all ways of creating space for your own flower sermon moment. Because here's what the Buddha knew that morning on Vulture Peak. He could have given the most eloquent discourse. He could have laid out the entire path to enlightenment in perfect detail. But it would have just been more food for the thinking mind, more concepts to grasp, more ideas to cling to. The monks who were confused, they wanted understanding. They wanted to add something to their knowledge. They wanted to become better, wiser, more enlightened. Their notebooks were ready. Their minds were eager. They were good students in the way we've all been taught to be good students. But Mahakasyapa wasn't trying to gain anything. He wasn't trying to understand. He simply received what was being offered. A flower, a smile, a moment of pure presence. Instead, he showed them, and he's showing you, that truth is simpler than that. It's as simple as a flower, as immediate as a smile, as close as your next breath. You know, in Japan, there's a whole art form built around this understanding. It's called ikebana, flower arranging. But it's not about creating something beautiful. Not really. It's about seeing the beauty that's already there. Each branch, each bloom, each empty space is perfect in itself. The arranger just helps reveal what was always true. Your life is like that too. You keep trying to arrange it into something meaningful, something worthy, something that finally feels like enough. But what if it's already perfect in its imperfection? What if the art isn't in the arranging, but in the seeing? This is the legacy of that morning on Vulture Peak. Not a philosophy to master or a doctrine to believe, but an invitation to see with fresh eyes, to receive life directly, to smile at the simple miracle of existence. And it's an invitation that's being extended to you right now, not through these words, though they might help, but through everything around you. The sound of your breath, the feeling of air on your skin, the mysterious fact that you exist at all. Right now, wherever you are, whatever you're feeling, this is your flower sermon. This moment, with all its ordinariness, all its imperfection, all its simplicity, this is the Buddha holding up a flower just for you. Can you see it? Can you smile back? You don't have to. There's no test here. No right response. Mahakasyapa's smile wasn't an achievement. It was a recognition, a remembering, a coming home. And that's always available to you. Not in some special future moment when you finally get it right, but right here, right now, in the middle of your beautifully ordinary life. The flower is always being held up. The question is, are you looking? There's something about you that you might not know yet. Something that's been true since before you were born. Something that remains unchanged, no matter how many mistakes you've made, how many times you felt lost, or how far from peace you think you've wandered. The ancient masters called it Buddha nature. But don't let the name intimidate you. It's not something exotic or foreign. It's the most natural thing in the world. As natural as the way water finds its level, or the way a flower turns toward light. Let me tell you a story that might help. There was once a Chinese Zen master named Huineng. He couldn't read or write. He made his living selling firewood in the marketplace. Not exactly what you'd picture when you think of a spiritual teacher, right? One day, while delivering wood, he overheard someone reciting a Buddhist scripture. Just one line, "Let your mind flow freely without dwelling on anything." And something in him recognized something in those words. Not intellectually. Remember, he couldn't even read. But something deeper than intellect woke up. That recognition changed everything. Not because the words gave him something new, but because they reminded him of something he'd always had. This is Buddha nature. It's not something you need to develop or achieve. It's what you are when you stop trying to be something else. Think of it this way. Imagine you're looking at a mirror that's covered in dust. You can't see your reflection clearly. Maybe you can barely see it at all. Now, does cleaning the dust create your reflection? Or does it reveal what was always there? Your whole life, you've been told you need to improve yourself, become better, fix your flaws, develop good qualities. And there's nothing wrong with growth and learning. But what if, underneath all that effort, you're already whole? What if all that striving is like a fish swimming around desperately looking for water? What if what you're seeking is what you're seeking with? The 6th Chinese patriarch once wrote, "The mind is the Bodhi tree, the body is the mirror stand." The mirror is originally clean and pure. Where can dust collect? In other words, your true nature, this Buddha nature, is like a perfect mirror. Always clean, always pure, always reflecting reality exactly as it is. The dust is just temporary. The dust is just on the surface. But what is this dust? It's all the stories you tell yourself about who you are. I'm not good enough. I'm too anxious. I'm bad at meditation. I'm not spiritual. Layer after layer of identity that covers your original brightness. You know these stories, don't you? They start playing the moment you wake up. Sometimes, even before you open your eyes. Here I go again, another day of not being quite right. If only I could be more like. Why can't I just? But here's what's remarkable. Even as these stories play, something in you remains untouched by them. Something in you knows they're just stories. That's your Buddha nature peeking through. Have you ever watched a movie and gotten completely absorbed in the drama? Your heart races during the chase scenes. You tear up during the sad parts. But something in you never forgets you're sitting in a theater. Something in you remains the watcher, not the watched. That watcher, that's closer to who you really are. It's been there through every moment of your life. When you were 5 years old, learning to tie your shoes. When you were 15, feeling like nobody understood you. When you were 25, trying to figure out your place in the world. Through all the changes, something remained unchanged. Think about it. Your body has completely replaced itself multiple times since you were born. Your thoughts are constantly changing. Your emotions ebb and flow like tides. But something has remained constant. something has been here for all of it. Witnessing, knowing, simply being aware. This unchanging awareness, this is what Buddha nature points to. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds nice, but I don't feel particularly Buddha-like. I lose my temper. I worry about money. I can't even sit still for 5 minutes without checking my phone. But that's exactly the point. Buddha nature isn't about being perfect. It's about being perfectly what you are. Even your imperfections arise from Buddha nature. Even your struggles are expressions of this fundamental aliveness. A student once asked a Zen master, "How can I find my Buddha nature?" The master replied, "Who is asking?" Sit with that for a moment. Who is asking? Who is listening to these words right now? Not your name, not your history, not your role in life, but the awareness itself. The one who knows you're hearing. The one who's always been here. It's so simple that we miss it. We're looking for something special, something extraordinary. But Buddha nature is the most ordinary thing in the world. It's the simple fact of being aware right now. It's the knowing that knows you're breathing. It's the presence that's present to these words. This is why meditation in Zen isn't about achieving special states. It's about recognizing what's already present. You sit not to become a Buddha, but to remember you are one. You practice not to gain something, but to let go of what obscures your true nature. Think about water. It can be ice, solid, and cold. It can be steam, hot and dispersed. It can be a peaceful lake or a raging river. But its essential nature, H2O, never changes. It's always water. You're like that too. Sometimes you're angry. That's you as ice. Sometimes you're joyful. That's you as a bubbling spring. Sometimes you're confused. That's you as fog. But your essential nature, your Buddha nature, remains constant through all these temporary forms. The Zen master Dogen said something profound about this. He said that practice and enlightenment are one. Not that practice leads to enlightenment, but that the very act of practicing is enlightenment expressing itself. When you sit in meditation, that's Buddha sitting. When you walk mindfully, that's Buddha walking. Not because you've achieved something special, but because Buddha nature is what makes any activity possible. This teaching isn't unique to Buddhism. Christians might call it the divine spark. Hindus might call it Atman. Psychologists might call it your true self. Different fingers pointing at the same moon. But Zen is particularly direct about it. It says, stop looking elsewhere. Stop waiting for some future enlightenment. Stop believing you're fundamentally flawed. Your Buddha nature is here now, reading these words, breathing this breath. Remember the mirror metaphor? Well, here's something beautiful about mirrors. They reflect everything without judgment. Beautiful faces, ugly faces. The mirror doesn't care. It just reflects. It doesn't hold on to yesterday's reflection. It doesn't anticipate tomorrow's. It's always fresh, always present, always ready. Your Buddha nature is like that. It's not stained by your past. It's not worried about your future. It's just here, openly aware, naturally present. This is why forgiveness is so powerful in spiritual practice. Not because it erases the past, but because it reminds you that your true nature was never damaged in the first place. You can't break a mirror by showing it an ugly image. You can't damage awareness by having difficult experiences. Right now, as you listen, you might notice something. Behind your thoughts about whether this is true or helpful, behind your planning mind that's already thinking about what to do with this information, there's a simple awareness. It's not thinking. It's just aware. That awareness doesn't have your name. It doesn't have your problems. It doesn't have your history. It's just awake, present, knowing. That's a glimpse of your Buddha nature. And here's something wonderful. You can't lose it. You can forget about it, yes. You can ignore it. You can cover it with layers of thinking and doing and becoming. But you can't lose what you are. The sun doesn't disappear when clouds cover it. Your Buddha nature doesn't vanish when thoughts obscure it. Now, recognizing Buddha nature doesn't mean your personality disappears. You'll still have your quirks, your preferences, your unique way of laughing, but you'll hold it all more lightly. Like an actor who plays their role fully, but never forgets it's a role. The beautiful thing is, Buddha nature includes everything. Your joy and your sorrow. Your clarity and your confusion. Your successes and your failures. Nothing is outside of it. Nothing is excluded. This is why Zen can be so accepting. It's not bypassing difficulties or pretending everything is fine. It's recognizing that even difficulties arise from and within Buddha nature. Even problems are part of the perfection. A wave might forget it's the ocean. It might think, I'm just a small wave, separate and temporary. It might envy bigger waves or fear crashing on the shore. But it never stops being ocean. Its very existence is ocean expressing itself as wave. You're like that wave. You might feel separate, small, temporary, but your Buddha nature expressing itself as you, perfectly, completely, just as you are right now. This isn't a belief to adopt. It's a reality to recognize. And the recognition often comes in the simplest moments. Washing dishes, the warm water on your hands. Walking outside, the air on your face. Listening to a friend, suddenly hearing not just their words but their heart. In these moments, the mirror clears. Not through effort, but through presence. Not through doing, but through being. And you remember what you've always known, but somehow forgot. You are already whole. You are already home. You are already Buddha. Not tomorrow. Not after more practice. Not when you finally get it right. Now. The only question is, can you trust it? Now we come to the heart of that shocking statement. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. And maybe now, after understanding Buddha nature, you're beginning to see why Linji would say such a thing. Let me share a story that might sound familiar. Sarah discovered meditation during a particularly difficult time in her life. Her marriage was struggling, work was overwhelming, and she felt like she was drowning. Then she found a teacher, a wise, compassionate woman who seemed to radiate peace. Sarah threw herself into practice. She attended every retreat, read every book her teacher recommended, hung on every word during talks. And it helped. It really helped. For the first time in years, she could breathe again. But then something interesting happened. Sarah started checking with her teacher before making any decision. Should I take this job? Is it okay if I skip meditation today? What would you do in my situation? Without realizing it, Sarah had traded one form of drowning for another. Instead of drowning in problems, she was drowning in dependence. The teacher, who had shown her the door to freedom, had somehow become the door itself. This is what Linji was warning about. You see, a good teacher is like a finger pointing at the moon. Their job is to help you look where they're pointing. But what happens when you become so fascinated by the finger that you forget to look at the moon? It's such a human tendency, isn't it? We find someone who seems to have answers, and we want to hold on to them. We collect their words like treasures. We try to become like them, dress like them, speak like them. We might even find ourselves defending them against any criticism, as if our own awakening depends on their perfection. But here's the gentle truth. No teacher, no matter how wise, can give you what you already have. They can only remind you to look. They can only point you back to yourself. The Buddha himself knew this. On his deathbed, his followers were distraught. "What will we do without you?" they asked. "Who will guide us?" And the Buddha said, "Be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own refuge. Seek no external refuge." Even the Buddha was telling them to kill the Buddha. Think about how we approach spiritual teachers today. We scroll through Instagram, looking for the perfect guru. We binge-watch YouTube channels, hoping this next video will contain the secret. We join online communities, comparing our progress to others, wondering if we're following the teachings correctly. There's nothing wrong with learning. Teachers can be incredibly helpful. But notice what happens in your mind when you find a teacher you admire. Do you start thinking, they have something I don't? Do you feel smaller in their presence? Do you start believing that enlightenment lives in them, not in you? This is the subtle trap. The very person who points you toward your own wisdom can become an obstacle to finding it. Not because of anything they do, but because of how we hold them. I once knew a student who meditated beautifully when his teacher was in the room. His posture was perfect. His breathing was deep. His mind settled easily. But when the teacher traveled, his practice fell apart. "I just can't do it without him," he said. But who was really meditating when the teacher was there? Was it the student Or was it the student's idea of who he should be in the teacher's presence? This is why Zen can seem so fierce sometimes. It's not trying to be cruel. It's trying to cut through our tendency to give our power away. It's trying to wake us up to our own authority. When Linji said, "Kill the Buddha," he wasn't advocating violence. He was advocating freedom. Freedom from the need for external validation. Freedom from the belief that someone else holds your peace. Freedom from the idea that enlightenment is somewhere else, in someone else. You know this pattern in other areas of your life. Maybe you've had a therapist who helped you tremendously, but then you found yourself unable to make decisions without calling them. Or a mentor at work who guided you so well that you lost confidence in your own judgment. Or even a friend whose advice you valued so highly that you stopped trusting your own intuition. The same thing happens in spiritual practice. We meet someone who embodies what we're seeking: peace, wisdom, compassion, and we naturally want to get closer to that. But in getting closer to them, we sometimes get further from ourselves. Here's what real teachers understand. Their job is to work themselves out of a job. Like good parents, they're trying to raise you to not need them. They celebrate when you disagree with them. They rejoice when you find your own way. A Zen master was once asked, "What do you teach your students?" He replied, "I teach them to steal. But they're such poor thieves that they keep bringing me gifts instead." Do you see? He wanted them to steal their own freedom, to take back their own authority. But instead, they kept giving it to him through devotion and dependency. This doesn't mean you should be disrespectful to teachers. It doesn't mean you should be arrogant or dismissive. Gratitude and respect are beautiful, but they're different from dependence. Think of it this way. A teacher is like a boat that helps you cross a river. You're grateful for the boat. You take care of it during the crossing. But once you reach the other shore, do you carry the boat on your back for the rest of your journey? Yet that's what we often do with spiritual teachings and teachers. We carry them long after they've served their purpose. We hold onto the finger so tightly that we can't see where it's pointing. The killing that Linji speaks of is really a letting go. It's the recognition that no external Buddha can save you, because the only real Buddha is your own awakened nature. It's the understanding that every teacher, every teaching, every technique is just a reminder of what you already are. This can feel scary. We want someone to tell us we're doing it right. We want someone to guarantee our progress. We want someone to take responsibility for our awakening. But that's like asking someone else to breathe for you. They can show you breathing techniques. They can remind you to breathe deeply. They can even breathe alongside you. But the breath that keeps you alive, that has to be your own. Right now, you might be thinking about your own teachers, the ones who've helped you, the ones you admire, the ones whose approval you still seek. And you might feel a little uncomfortable. Am I too dependent? Am I giving my power away? Here's a gentle way to explore this. Ask yourself, does this teacher or teaching make me feel more like myself or less? Do I feel expanded in their presence or contracted? Am I discovering my own wisdom or just borrowing theirs? A healthy spiritual relationship is like a dance. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. Sometimes you come together, sometimes you move apart. But always, you're dancing your own dance. The beautiful thing is, when you stop making teachers into crutches, you can appreciate them even more. You can learn from them without losing yourself. You can respect them without diminishing yourself. You can love them without needing them. And here's the deepest secret. When you truly kill the Buddha, when you stop looking for awakening outside yourself, you find Buddha everywhere. In your teacher, yes, but also in the grocery clerk. In the sunset, but also in the traffic jam. In the profound teaching, but also in your child's laughter. Because Buddha was never a person. Buddha is awakeness itself. And that awakeness is as present in you as it was in any teacher who ever lived. So yes, learn from teachers. Read the books. Attend the retreats. Practice the techniques. But always remember, they're all just reminding you of what you already know. They're all just pointing you back home. And home isn't in a monastery in Japan or a cave in India. Home isn't in your teacher's presence or in ancient texts. Home is right here, right now, in this very moment. In this breath. In this heartbeat. In this simple, ordinary awareness that's reading these words. Can you feel it? That freedom, that spaciousness? That's what happens when you stop carrying Buddhas on your back. That's what happens when you realize you've been swimming in the ocean of wisdom all along. The teacher you've been looking for, they've been here the whole time, sitting right where you're sitting, breathing with your breath, looking through your eyes. Welcome home. Picture a man sitting in a cave, facing a wall. Not for an hour, not for a day, but for 9 years. 9 years of just sitting, just looking at stone. No books, no disciples, no teachings, just a man and a wall. This was Bodhidharma, and his strange, radical approach to spiritual practice would change everything. The story goes that he arrived in China around 520 CE, this wild-looking Indian monk with piercing eyes and a presence that made people uncomfortable. He didn't look like the other Buddhist teachers who had come before. They brought scriptures and ceremonies, elaborate philosophies, and complex practices. Bodhidharma brought something else entirely. He brought silence. When the Chinese Emperor Wu heard about this unusual visitor, he summoned Bodhidharma to court. The emperor was proud of his spiritual accomplishments. He had built temples, sponsored translations of sacred texts, supported thousands of monks. He expected this new teacher to praise him, to acknowledge his merit. "I have built many temples and supported the Sangha," the emperor said. "What merit have I gained?" Bodhidharma looked at him directly. No merit whatsoever. The emperor was shocked. Every other teacher had assured him that his generous acts would bring great spiritual rewards. But here was this strange monk telling him it was all worthless. Then what is the highest meaning of the holy truths? The emperor asked, perhaps a bit desperately. Vast emptiness, nothing holy, Bodhidharma replied. The emperor, now completely confused and probably a little angry, asked, "Who is this standing before me?" Bodhidharma's response, "I don't know." And with that, he left the palace. Just walked out. Left the most powerful man in China standing there with his mouth open. Because Bodhidharma wasn't interested in power or recognition, or even being understood. He was interested in something much more radical. He was interested in the truth. This is the gift Bodhidharma brought, a complete stripping away of everything extra. No, depending on good deeds to earn enlightenment. No accumulating spiritual merit like coins in a bank. No holy truths to cling to. Just the raw, direct encounter with what is. After leaving the emperor, Bodhidharma made his way to the Shaolin temple. But instead of teaching in the traditional way, he went to a cave on Mount Song and sat down facing the wall. And there he stayed. Can you imagine the confusion? Here was supposedly a great master, and all he did was sit and stare at stone. Monks would come, hoping for teachings, for practices, for something to do, and all they saw was his back. But Bodhidharma was teaching, just not in the way anyone expected. You see, in India, where Bodhidharma came from, Buddhism had become incredibly complex. Thousands of texts to study, elaborate visualizations to master, complicated philosophical debates to win. The simple practice of sitting and being aware had gotten buried under layers and layers of additions. It's like what happens when you have a smartphone. At first, it's a tool for communication. Then you add apps, and more apps, and widgets, and notifications, and updates, until the simple device becomes so complicated that you forget its basic purpose. Bodhidharma was like someone saying, "Put down the phone. Remember what it means to just be present." His wall gazing wasn't escapism. It wasn't avoiding the world. It was the most radical confrontation possible, meeting reality without any buffer, without any story, without any hope of being anywhere else. Think about your own meditation practice, if you have one. How much of it is actually sitting with what is, and how much is trying to get somewhere else? Trying to feel peaceful, trying to stop thoughts, trying to have special experiences. Bodhidharma's gift was showing that true meditation isn't about getting anything. It's about being completely here. Even if here is just staring at a cave wall for 9 years. Now, the traditional accounts tell us that Bodhidharma brought 2 teachings with him. They called them the 2 entrances and 4 practices. But don't let the formal names fool you. These weren't complicated systems. They were radically simple pointers. The first entrance was through principle, directly recognizing your true nature. Remember our discussion about Buddha nature, that mirror that's always clean. Bodhidharma said you could recognize it right now. Not after years of practice. Not after accumulating merit. Right now. He taught that everyone, emperor and beggar, wise and foolish, has the same true nature. It's only covered up by what he called false sense impressions. All your ideas about who you are, what you need, where you're going, these are just dust on the mirror. The second entrance was through practice. But not practice as we usually think of it. Not practicing to gain something. Instead, 4 ways of living that express your true nature. First, accepting all suffering as the result of past actions. Not in a guilty way, but with a simple recognition, everything has causes. When difficulty comes, meeting it without complaint, without the extra layer of, why me? You know how this goes. You stub your toe and there's the pain. But then there's the anger at the furniture, the frustration at your clumsiness, the whole story about how things always go wrong for you. Bodhidharma said, just the first pain. Skip the sequel. Second, adapting to conditions. Good fortune comes. It's just conditions. Bad fortune comes. Also just conditions. Not getting excited by gain or depressed by loss. Staying steady like a mountain while weather passes over. Third, not seeking. This might be the hardest one for us modern people. We're always seeking the next thing, the next achievement, the next experience, the next level of consciousness. Bodhidharma said, stop. What you're seeking is what's doing the seeking. Fourth, practicing the Dharma. Living in accordance with the way things actually are. Not how you wish they were, not how they should be, but how they are. This isn't passive acceptance. It's active alignment with reality. These weren't just ideas to think about. They were ways of being that Bodhidharma embodied completely. When he sat facing that wall, he wasn't waiting for enlightenment. He was demonstrating it. But people didn't understand. They kept waiting for him to do something special, to perform miracles, to give secret teachings. The months passed. Then years. Still, he sat. Until one winter, a monk named Huike arrived. We talked about Huike earlier, how he stood in the snow, desperate for teaching. But let's look deeper at what happened. Huike was already a learned man. He knew the scriptures. He'd studied with other teachers. But something was missing. Despite all his knowledge, his mind wasn't at peace. So he heard about this strange monk sitting in a cave and thought, maybe he has what I need. But Bodhidharma wouldn't even turn around. Day after day, Huike stood outside the cave. Snow piled up around him. Still, Bodhidharma sat. Finally, in desperation, Huike cut off his own arm to show his sincerity. Now, we don't need to take this literally. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But symbolically, what was Huike cutting off? Perhaps his arm represents all the grasping, all the reaching for external answers. He was so desperate that he was willing to give up everything. Only then did Bodhidharma turn around. "My mind is not at peace," Huike said. "Please, pacify it for me." And here comes the profound simplicity of Bodhidharma's teaching. He didn't give Huike a practice. He didn't explain Buddhist philosophy. He simply said, "Bring me your mind, and I'll pacify it." Huike searched. Where was this troubled mind? He looked and looked. But the more he searched for it, the less he could find it. Finally, he had to admit, "I've searched for my mind, but I can't find it." "There," said Bodhidharma. "I've pacified it for you." In that moment, Huike woke up. Not to some special state, but to the simplest fact: the troubled mind he'd been trying to fix didn't actually exist. It was just thoughts arising and passing. When he looked for a solid thing called mind, there was nothing to find. This is Bodhidharma's essential gift, pointing directly to the nature of mind. Not through concepts, but through direct inquiry. Show me this thing you're so worried about. Where is it? What is it? You can try this yourself right now. That anxiety you feel about tomorrow, where exactly is it? Can you locate it? That regret about yesterday, can you find it? When you really look, you find sensations in the body, stories in the thoughts, but no solid thing called anxiety or regret. This was revolutionary. While other schools of Buddhism were adding more and more practices, Bodhidharma was subtracting. While others were promising future enlightenment, he was pointing to present freedom. And this approach created what would become Zen, or as they called it in China, Chan. The word comes from the Sanskrit dhyana, meaning meditation. But Bodhidharma's meditation wasn't what most people think. It wasn't concentrating on something. It was recognizing what's already here. After his encounter with Huike, word began to spread. This strange, wall-gazing monk had something different. More students came. But Bodhidharma never created a big monastery, never wrote elaborate texts. His teaching remained radically simple. Look directly at your mind. There's a text attributed to him called the Bloodstream Sermon, though scholars debate whether he actually wrote it. But it captures his spirit perfectly. It says, if you know that everything comes from the mind, don't become attached. Once attached, you're unaware. But once you see your own nature, the entire canon becomes so much prose. Think about what this means. All the Buddhist scriptures, all the teachings, all the practices, they're just prose once you see your nature. Not useless, but no longer necessary. Like a map after you've arrived at your destination. This is why Bodhidharma could tell Emperor Wu that all his temple building had no merit. Not because good actions are bad, but because using them to earn enlightenment misses the point. You can't earn what you already are. You can't travel to where you're already standing. The gift Bodhidharma gave to China, and through China to Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and eventually the West, was this radical simplicity. Strip away everything extra. Stop trying to become a Buddha. Recognize the Buddha you already are. And how do you do this? By doing what Bodhidharma did. Sit down. Face reality. Don't move. Not because sitting is magical, but because when you stop running, you notice you're already home. This is why Zen meditation looks so simple. Just sitting. No visualizations of deities. No complex breathing techniques. No stages to pass through. Just this moment, just this breath, just this awareness. But simple doesn't mean easy. Facing a wall for 9 years? Facing your own mind without distraction? That takes a kind of courage most of us can barely imagine. Yet Bodhidharma's gift wasn't the extreme practice. It was showing that enlightenment isn't found in extremes. It's found in the most ordinary awareness. The same awareness reading these words right now. He famously said that Zen is a special transmission outside the scriptures, not dependent on words and letters, pointing directly to the human mind, seeing into one's nature and becoming Buddha. Every part of this is important. Outside the scriptures, not anti-scripture, but not dependent on them. Not dependent on words, because what you are can't be captured in language. Pointing directly, no detours through philosophy or ritual. Seeing into one's nature, not creating something new, but recognizing what's always been there. This transmission that Bodhidharma brought continues today. Every time someone sits down to meditate, without agenda, it continues. Every time someone questions the nature of their own mind, it continues. Every time someone realizes that peace isn't found in the future but in this moment, Bodhidharma's gift is received again. The wall he faced for 9 years wasn't an escape from the world. It was the world, stripped of all our projections, stories, and hopes. Just stone being stone. Just sitting, being sitting. Just this moment being exactly what it is. And in that complete ordinariness, something extraordinary is revealed. Not because anything special happens, but because we finally stop waiting for something special to happen. We finally arrive where we've always been. This is Bodhidharma's lasting gift, the confidence that you need nothing beyond what you already have. The recognition that the peace you seek is the peace you are. The understanding that enlightenment isn't an achievement, but a remembering. 9 years facing a wall. And what did he find? The same thing you'll find when you stop looking elsewhere. The same thing Huike found when he couldn't locate his troubled mind. The same thing that's been here all along, waiting patiently for you to notice. Nothing special. Everything complete. Just this. Right now, in this moment, you have a thought, maybe about what you're hearing, maybe about something else entirely, maybe wondering if you're doing this listening thing right. But here's a question that might seem strange. Where is that thought? No, really. Where is it? Is it in your head? Behind your eyes? Floating somewhere in your brain? When you look closely, when you really try to locate it, something interesting happens. The thought seems to dissolve under investigation, like trying to grab smoke with your hands. This is the discovery that has freed countless people over the centuries. The discovery that Huike made standing in the snow. The discovery that you're about to make for yourself. Let's start with something we all know intimately: worry. You know that feeling when your mind won't stop spinning about tomorrow's meeting, or that conversation you need to have, or that bill you're not sure how to pay. The worry feels so real, so solid, so overwhelming. But what if I asked you to show me your worry? Not tell me about it, not describe it, but actually show it to me. Could you put it in a box? Could you paint it? Could you point to where it lives? This isn't just philosophical games. This is the most practical investigation possible. Because if you can't find this thing that's tormenting you, what does that mean about its power over you? There's a story about a Zen student who came to his teacher in distress. "Master, I'm overwhelmed by anger," he said. "It's eating me alive. Please help me get rid of it." The master nodded sympathetically. "I understand. This anger must be terrible. Bring it out here so we can examine it together." The student was confused. "Bring it out? What do you mean, Eza?" "Well," said the master, "you say you have anger. So show it to me. Take it out like you would take out a wallet or a key. Let's look at this anger of yours." The student searched. He felt the heat in his chest, the tension in his jaw, the stories in his mind. But when he tried to grab hold of anger itself, there was nothing to grasp. Just sensations arising and passing. Just thoughts coming and going. No solid thing called anger. "I can't find it," he finally admitted. "Excellent," smiled the master. "Now you're beginning to understand." This is what Bodhidharma was pointing to when he told Huike to bring him his mind. It's not that mind doesn't exist. Obviously, you're aware, you're thinking, you're experiencing. But the solid, findable, graspable thing we call mind, where is it? You might think, well, it's in my brain. But brain is physical matter, neurons and chemicals, and electrical impulses. Where in all that is the experience of being you? Scientists can map every neuron, measure every chemical, and still not find the thought, "I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow." This isn't denying science. It's pointing to something science itself acknowledges, the hard problem of consciousness. How does physical matter give rise to subjective experience? How does meat think? Nobody really knows. But you don't need to solve that philosophical puzzle. You just need to look at your own direct experience. Right now you're aware. Where is that awareness? You're hearing these words. Where is the hearing happening? When you investigate like this, you might notice something. Thoughts arise, but you can't find a thinker. Emotions come, but you can't locate a fixed self who has them. Experiences happen, but the experiencer remains mysteriously unfindable. This can be unsettling at first. We're so used to the story of being a solid self, living in our heads, looking out at the world through our eyes like windows. But when we look for this control center, this CEO of our experience, it's nowhere to be found. let's try something gentle together. Think of your name. Got it? Now, where did that thought come from? Did you manufacture it? Did you see it coming before it arrived? Or did it just appear, like a bubble rising to the surface of a pond? Now let it go. Where did it go? Can you follow it? Can you bring it back exactly as it was? Or has it dissolved back into the mystery from which it came? This is the nature of mind, constantly appearing and disappearing, never solid, never graspable, always flowing. Like a river that's never the same river twice. Like clouds that form and dissolve in an endless sky. The problem isn't that we have thoughts and feelings. The problem is that we believe they're more solid than they are. We believe in a fixed self who's having them. We create elaborate stories about this self, its problems, its needs, its journey toward happiness. But when Huike looked for his troubled mind, what did he find? Nothing graspable. Just the looking itself. Just awareness, open and empty, in which troubles rise and fall like waves. This is incredibly practical wisdom. Next time you're caught in anxiety, try Bodhidharma's medicine. Instead of fighting the anxiety or analyzing why you have it, simply look for it. Where is this anxiety? What color is it? What shape? How much does it weigh? You'll find sensations, maybe a tight chest or churning stomach. You'll find thoughts, stories about what might go wrong. But anxiety itself, as a thing, unfindable. And in that unfindability, there's freedom. A woman once told me she'd been depressed for years. It's like carrying a heavy backpack everywhere, she said. I'm so tired of hauling around this depression. I asked her, where do you carry it? Show me where you set it down when you sleep. She started to point to her chest, then stopped. A strange look crossed her face. That's weird, she said. I can feel heaviness. I can find sad thoughts, but I can't actually locate depression anywhere. She wasn't cured in that moment. The feelings didn't magically disappear, but something shifted. The solid thing she'd been fighting for years revealed itself to be more like weather, sometimes stormy, sometimes clear, but always changing, never permanent. This is what the Zen tradition calls no mind, or mushin. Not the absence of mental activity, but the recognition that mind isn't a thing. It's more like space in which things appear, more like a mirror that reflects without being stained. You know this from your own experience. Yesterday you might have been furious about something. Today it seems silly. Last week's overwhelming worry resolved itself. Last month's heartbreak has softened. The mind that seemed so solid, so permanent in each moment, keeps shape-shifting. So which is the real mind? The angry one? The peaceful one? The worried one? The joyful one? Or could it be that mind isn't any particular state, but the open awareness in which all states come and go? There's a beautiful phrase in Zen: the pine teaches silence, the rock teaches stillness, the water teaches flowing. But what does the unfindable mind teach? It teaches freedom. Freedom from what? From the tyranny of our own thoughts. From the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we need. From the belief that we're broken and need fixing. From the endless project of self-improvement. When you can't find a solid self, what needs improving? When you can't locate a fixed mind, what needs pacifying? This doesn't mean you become passive or stop caring. It means you stop adding unnecessary suffering to life's inevitable challenges. Pain is inevitable. It's the body's signal system. But suffering? Suffering is the story we add. Why me? This shouldn't happen. What if it gets worse? I can't handle this. These thoughts seem to come from a solid self that's under threat. But when you look for that self, where is it? Right now, you might be thinking, but I feel like a self. I have memories, preferences, a personality. Yes, of course. Nobody's saying these experiences don't happen. The question is, do they happen to a fixed, findable entity? Or do they simply arise in awareness like clouds in sky? The sky doesn't own the clouds. It doesn't say, these are my clouds, and I need to keep the good ones and get rid of the bad ones. It just provides space for weather to happen. Your true nature is like that sky, vast, open, untroubled by what passes through. This is why Huike's realization was so profound. He didn't just understand intellectually that mind is unfindable. He experienced it directly. And in that direct experience, the whole problem dissolved. Not because he found a solution, but because he couldn't find the problem. You can taste this freedom right now. Whatever you're experiencing in this moment, pleasant or unpleasant, calm or agitated, see if you can find the one who's experiencing it. Not the experience itself, but the experiencer. Where is this I that has experiences? Don't think about it. Look, like you'd look for your keys or your phone. Actually search for this self you're so sure exists. What you'll find is what mystics have always found. Awareness itself, knowing itself, without a knower. Experience happening without a separate experiencer. The dance dancing itself without a dancer. And in this recognition, something relaxes. The grip loosens. The mind that seems so troubled, so in need of help, reveals itself to be like space, naturally peaceful, inherently free, already whole. This is the gift hidden in Bodhidharma's strange response to Huike. Not a teaching to understand, but a reality to discover. The mind you're trying to fix isn't broken. It isn't even there in the way you think it is. And that's the best news possible. Have you ever been going about your ordinary day when suddenly everything shifted? Maybe you were washing dishes and the sunlight hit the soap bubbles just right, and for a moment, the whole universe was there in your kitchen sink. Or you were stuck in traffic, frustrated and late, when suddenly the absurdity of it all made you laugh, and in that laughter, something loosened. These moments come like lightning, sudden, brilliant, impossible to predict or control. One moment you're caught in your usual patterns, the next moment you're free, even if just for a heartbeat. This is what Zen calls sudden awakening, and it created one of the biggest debates in Buddhist history. Picture ancient China, where two approaches to enlightenment were developing. In the north, teachers said awakening was gradual, like climbing a mountain step by step. You practice, you improve, you slowly purify your mind until one day, after much effort, you reach the summit. But in the south, a different voice emerged. Teachers there said awakening was sudden, like lightning illuminating the whole landscape at once. You don't gradually become enlightened any more than you gradually fall asleep. One moment you're awake, the next you're not. Or in this case, one moment you're asleep to your true nature, the next you're awake to it. The debate got heated. Monks argued in temples. Treaties were written. Political alliances formed. It seems almost funny now, fighting about how to wake up. Like arguing about whether dawn comes suddenly or gradually while missing the sunrise itself. But here's where it gets interesting. Remember Huineng, the illiterate woodcutter we mentioned earlier? His story became the heart of this debate. Huineng was carrying firewood through the marketplace when he heard a monk reciting the Diamond Sutra. Just one line, "Let your mind flow freely without dwelling on anything." And boom, in that instant, something in him recognized something in those words. Not gradually, not after years of practice. Right there between the vegetable stalls and the shouting merchants. He hadn't been seeking enlightenment. He couldn't even read spiritual books. He was just a poor man trying to make a living. But awakening doesn't care about your credentials. This is the beautiful democracy of sudden awakening. It says, you don't need to be special. You don't need years of preparation. You don't need to understand complex philosophy. You just need to be present when lightning strikes. But, and this is a big but, what happens after the lightning? Huineng's initial awakening was sudden, yes. But then he spent 15 years living with hunters in the mountains, integrating his realization. He couldn't just return to selling firewood as if nothing had happened. The lightning had shown him the landscape, but he still had to learn to walk in this new terrain. This is where the rain comes in. After the sudden flash of recognition comes the gradual soaking in. The slow, steady work of embodying what you've glimpsed. Think about falling in love. There's often that moment, eyes meeting across a room, a laugh that catches you off guard, a gesture that stops time. Sudden, undeniable. But then what? Then comes the gradual building of relationship, the daily choices, the working through conflicts, the deepening that only time can bring. Awakening is like that. The recognition might come in a flash. Oh, I'm not who I thought I was. I'm not separate. I'm already whole. But then, you still have to pay taxes. You still get annoyed when someone cuts you off in traffic. You still have all your human patterns and conditioning. This is why many Zen teachers developed what they called sudden awakening, gradual cultivation. The awakening is sudden. You can't gradually realize you're already Buddha any more than you can gradually realize you're wet when someone throws water on you. But the cultivation is gradual, learning to live from that recognition, to embody it in every moment. A Zen master once compared it to a baby. When a child is born, they're fully human in that instant. Complete. Nothing missing. But they still need to learn to walk, talk, feed themselves. The completeness is there from the beginning, but the expression of it unfolds over time. This resolved the great debate, mostly. Both sides were right. Awakening is sudden. You can't be half awake to your true nature. But integration is gradual. You can be more or less skillful in expressing that nature. You've probably had your own sudden moments. Times when the ordinary world became transparent and you saw through to something more real. Maybe during childbirth, when the veil between life and death felt tissue thin. Maybe in grief, when your heart broke so completely that only love remained. Maybe in nature, when you felt yourself dissolve into the landscape. These moments come as grace. Uninvited. Unearned. Like cosmic gifts slipped under the door of your ordinary life. But then Monday morning comes. The alarm rings. The kids need breakfast. The emails pile up. And that vast spaciousness you touched seems like a dream. Was it even real? You wonder, did I imagine it? This is where practice comes in. Not practice to achieve awakening. That's already happened, even if just for a moment. But practice to remember. Practice to stabilize. Practice to live from what you've glimpsed. It's like learning a musical instrument. You might have a moment where you suddenly get music, where you hear how it all fits together, feel the rhythm in your bones. But you still need to practice scales. You still need to train your fingers. The sudden understanding doesn't replace the gradual embodiment. Some people get frustrated with this. If I've already seen my true nature, why do I still get anxious? Why do I still have bad habits? Why don't I feel enlightened all the time? But this is like asking, if I've seen the ocean, why don't I always taste salt? Seeing and being are different. Recognizing your nature and expressing it consistently are different. The first can happen in an instant. The second is the work of a lifetime. And here's something comforting. Even great masters have their human moments. The sixth patriarch Huineng himself reportedly said he still had thoughts and emotions after his awakening. He just didn't get tangled up in them. They came and went like birds through the sky of his mind. This is the gradual rain after sudden lightning, learning to let thoughts and feelings move through you without leaving tracks. Learning to respond from wisdom rather than react from conditioning. Learning to trust the vastness you've glimpsed even when you can't feel it. Sometimes the gradual path looks like formal practice, sitting meditation, walking meditation, studying texts. But just as often it looks like daily life. Being present with your coffee, really listening to your friend, catching yourself before you send that angry email. Each moment of presence is rain soaking into the earth of your being. The beautiful thing is, sudden and gradual support each other. Each glimpse of your true nature makes the gradual work easier, and the gradual work creates more space for sudden insights. Like lightning and rain in nature, the flash illuminates, the rain nourishes. Some of you listening might be thinking, I've never had a sudden awakening. Maybe I'm not the type. Maybe I'm just a gradual person. But sudden doesn't always mean dramatic. It can be as quiet as a shift in perspective, as simple as a moment of unexpected peace, as ordinary as suddenly seeing that you've been looking for your glasses while wearing them. And some of you might be thinking, I had a big experience once, but it faded. I must have lost it. But you can't lose what you are. You can only forget to look. The sudden recognition might fade, but what was recognized remains. Always here, always available, just temporarily clouded. The Zen teacher Suzuki Roshi had a beautiful way of talking about this. He said enlightenment is like walking in fog. You don't notice getting wet, but suddenly you're soaked through. Was it sudden or gradual? Both. Neither. The question misses the point of being thoroughly wet. This is the middle way between sudden and gradual. Not choosing sides, but recognizing that awakening is both simpler and more complex than our categories. Simple because your true nature is already here. Complex because expressing it in a human life takes patience, practice, and endless compassion for yourself. So whether your path feels like lightning or rain or fog or all three, trust the process. Trust that every glimpse matters. Trust that every practice counts. Trust that awakening isn't something that happened to special people long ago, but something available right here, right now, in the midst of your ordinary, extraordinary life. After all, where else could enlightenment be but here? When else could it happen but now? Who else could wake up but you? What is the sound of one hand clapping? Just let that question sit with you for a moment. Don't try to answer it. Don't try to figure it out. Just feel what it does to your thinking mind. Two hands clapping, that makes sense. You can hear it, see it, understand it. But one hand, your mind might start spinning, looking for clever answers. Is it silence? Is it the sound of air moving? Is it some kind of metaphor? But what if the point isn't to find an answer? What if the point is what happens to your mind when it can't find one? Welcome to the strange and wonderful world of koans. These seemingly absurd questions and statements that have been frustrating and liberating Zen students for over 1,000 years. The word koan originally meant a public case or legal precedent in ancient China. But in Zen, it became something else entirely. A tool for breaking through the rational mind. A key for unlocking what can't be unlocked. A question that questions the questioner. You've already encountered one. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Your rational mind probably struggled with that at first. But killing is wrong. But Buddha is good. What does this mean? And in that struggle, something else might have opened. A different kind of understanding. Let me tell you about Master Hakuin, who gave us the one-hand koan. He lived in Japan in the 1700s, and he was known for revitalizing Zen practice. Students would come to him seeking enlightenment, and he'd give them this impossible question. One student worked on it for 3 years. 3 years. Every day, sitting with this ridiculous question. What is the sound of one hand? He tried everything. Philosophy, poetry, logic, imagination. Nothing worked. Finally, exhausted and defeated, he was walking in the garden when he heard a temple bell ring. And in that moment, not thinking about the koan, not trying to solve it, something broke open. He ran to Hakuin, laughing and crying. He didn't give an answer. He didn't need to. His whole being was the answer. This is how koans work. They're not riddles to be solved intellectually. They're more like pressure cookers for the mind. The impossible question builds up internal pressure until something has to give. And what gives is your usual way of thinking. Think about your own life. Haven't your biggest breakthroughs come when you were pushed beyond your limits? When your normal strategies failed? When you had to let go of control and let something else emerge? There's another famous koan. What is your original face before your mother and father were born? Sit with that for a moment. Your mind might start calculating. Before my parents were born, I didn't exist. But the koan pushes further. What is this you that thinks it began with birth? What is this face that you think time created? A young monk once brought his answer to the master. Before my parents were born, there was just emptiness, he said proudly. The master shook his head. Too conceptual. Show me this face. The monk tried again. It's the Buddha nature we all share. Again, the master shook his head. You're still in your head. I asked for your face, not philosophy. Months passed. The monk grew more and more frustrated. One day, washing his bowl after breakfast, he caught his reflection in the water. But instead of seeing his familiar features, for just a moment he saw what? Not emptiness. Not Buddha nature. Just this. Simple, ordinary, impossible to describe. He didn't run to the master this time. There was no need. He just smiled and continued washing his bowl. Koans can seem like mind games, but they're actually the opposite. They're designed to exhaust the gaming mind, to wear out your clever strategies, to bring you to the edge of conceptual thinking and then gently push you off. Here's one that sounds deceptively simple. What is Buddha? A monk asked Master Yunmen this question. Yunmen's answer: a dried shit stick. Now your mind might be recoiling. That's disrespectful. That's crude. Or it might start philosophizing. He must mean Buddha is everywhere, even in the lowest things. But both responses miss the point. In ancient China, They use sticks instead of toilet paper. So Yunmen was pointing to the most ordinary, least sacred thing imaginable. Why? To short-circuit the monk's tendency to put Buddha somewhere special, somewhere else, somewhere holy. Where is Buddha? In the temple? In meditation? In some exalted state? No, says Yunmen. Buddha is in the bathroom. Buddha is in the mundane. Buddha is so ordinary you're missing it by looking for something special. This is the gift of koans. They take your spiritual seeking and turn it inside out. They show you that what you're looking for is hiding in plain sight. Not in the answer, but in the looking itself. Modern life gives us our own koans, doesn't it? How can I find work-life balance? The question assumes work and life are separate things to be balanced. But what if the question is the problem? What if there's just life, expressing itself as work sometimes, as rest sometimes, as joy sometimes, as struggle sometimes? Or, how can I find myself? As if you're lost, as if you're somewhere else. The koan might ask instead, who is looking? The beauty of working with koans is that they teach you to hold paradox. Life is full of contradictions. You're a separate individual, and you're interconnected with everything. You have free will, and everything is caused by conditions. You're dying, and you're vibrantly alive. The rational mind wants to resolve these contradictions. Pick a side. Make it neat. But koans teach you to rest in the mystery, to be comfortable with not knowing, to find peace in the question itself. There's a koan that goes, 2 monks were arguing about a flag flapping in the wind. One said, the flag is moving. The other said, the wind is moving. The 6th patriarch happened to be passing by. He said, not the wind, not the flag, mind is moving. But even that's not the end. A later master commented, not the wind, not the flag, not the mind. Where is the movement? Each response takes you deeper into mystery. First you think it's about the flag, then the wind, then consciousness itself. Then what? What remains when you've questioned everything? Working with a koan is like being a detective investigating a crime that never happened. You gather clues, follow leads, construct theories. But every solution dissolves under scrutiny, until finally you realize you are the mystery you're trying to solve. Some Zen schools, particularly Rinzai, use koans formally. Students are given a koan by their teacher and work with it intensively. They bring their understanding to private interviews. The teacher probes, pushes, rejects conceptual answers. It can be frustrating, humbling, even infuriating. But that's the point. To frustrate the ego that wants to be right. To humble the intellect that thinks it can figure everything out. To infuriate the part of you that needs to be in control. Until something else emerges. Something fresher. More spontaneous. More alive. You don't need formal training to taste this. Life itself is full of koans. How can I love someone who hurt me? How can I let go when I care so much? How can I be authentic when I don't know who I am? These questions don't have neat answers. They have lived responses. Responses that emerge from being fully present with the paradox, from letting the question work on you instead of you working on the question. The sound of one hand clapping isn't silence. It isn't noise. It isn't some clever answer you can give. It's what happens when your mind stops dividing the world into two hands, this and that, self and other, sound and silence. Maybe you hear it when your child laughs. Maybe you hear it in the pause between heartbeats. Maybe you hear it right now, in the space between these words. Not with your ears, but with something deeper. Not as sound, but as presence itself. The great master Mumon wrote, "When you meet a swordsman, draw your sword. Do not recite poetry to one who is not a poet. When talking, tell 1/3. Do not tell the whole." Why not tell the whole? Because the part that matters can't be told. It has to be discovered. It has to be lived. It has to arise from your own depths, like a spring bubbling up from underground water. So here's a koan for you, right now, who is listening to these words. Don't answer with your name. Don't answer with concepts. Just look. Who or what is aware right now? What is this awareness that knows you're aware? The answer isn't in words. It's in the looking itself. In the moment when the question turns back on itself and dissolves into wonder. In the recognition that you are the answer you've been seeking. And that recognition? That's the sound of one hand clapping. There's a radical simplicity in what I'm about to share with you. So simple that your mind might rebel against it. So ordinary that you might think you're missing something. But sometimes the most profound teachings come disguised as the most obvious. Just sit. That's it. That's the practice. Not sitting to get somewhere. Not sitting to become someone. Not sitting to achieve a special state. Just sitting. In Japanese, they call it shikantaza. Shikan means just or nothing but. Ta means hit. Za means sit. Just hit sit. Or more poetically, just sitting. Nothing extra. This was the revolutionary practice that Dogen brought back from China to Japan in the 1200s. While other schools were using koans to break through to enlightenment, or visualizing deities, or chanting mantras, Dogen said, just sit. But don't mistake simple for easy. Imagine someone telling you, just be yourself. Sounds simple, right? But then you start wondering, which self? The one I am at work? With my kids? When I'm alone? Who is this myself I'm supposed to be? Shikantaza is like that. Just sitting sounds simple until you try it. Then all your habits of mind become crystal clear. You sit down, and immediately your mind starts planning. I should meditate for 20 minutes. No, 30. I wonder if I'm doing this right. My back hurts. Is this enlightenment? What's for lunch? But Shikantaza says, include all of that. Don't try to stop your thoughts. Don't try to achieve some special state of calm. Just sit with whatever is happening. Let your mind do what minds do. Let your body feel what bodies feel. Just don't add anything extra. Dogen had a radical insight about this practice. He said that sitting itself is enlightenment. Not that sitting leads to enlightenment. Not that if you sit long enough, you'll get enlightened. But that the very act of sitting without agenda is itself the expression of your awakened nature. Think about that for a moment. When you sit without trying to get anywhere, what are you expressing? You're expressing the truth that you're already here. When you sit without trying to become someone, what are you demonstrating? That you're already complete. This turns meditation completely upside down. Usually we think, I'll meditate to reduce stress, or I'll meditate to find peace, or I'll meditate to become enlightened. But Shikantaza says, you're already peaceful in your essential nature. This sitting is how peace sits. You're already enlightened. This sitting is how enlightenment sits. A student once asked Dogen, if we're already enlightened, why do we need to practice? Dogen smiled. Practice is enlightenment, he said. The student was confused. But if practice is enlightenment, why do some people seem more enlightened than others? A bird flies through the sky, Dogen replied, but the sky doesn't become more sky. A fish swims through water, but the water doesn't become more water. Practice doesn't make you more enlightened. It expresses the enlightenment you are. This is the beautiful paradox of Shikantaza. You're not sitting to get something. You're sitting to express what you already have. Like a flower doesn't bloom to become a flower. It blooms because it's a flower. But here's where people get stuck. They hear, just sit, and think it means being passive, checking out, spacing out. But Shikantaza is actually the most intimate engagement possible. You're not checking out from life. You're checking in so completely that there's no separation between you and your experience. Let me paint you a picture of what this actually looks like. You find a quiet spot. Maybe a cushion on the floor. Maybe a chair. You sit upright but not rigid. Like a mountain, stable, grounded, but alive. Your hands rest in your lap or on your knees. Your eyes are slightly open, gazing down at about a 45-degree angle. Not focused on anything particular, just seeing. And then you sit. Thoughts come. You don't push them away. You don't follow them either. They're like clouds passing through the sky of your mind. You notice them. Oh, there's worry. There's planning. There's remembering. But you don't get involved in their stories. Sounds arise. A car passing. Birds singing. Your neighbor's music. You don't label them good or bad. They're just the soundtrack of this moment, part of the sitting. Your knee starts to ache. You notice the impulse to move, to fix, to make it better. But you also notice that you can just be with the sensation. Not in a masochistic way. If you need to move, you move. But first, you explore, what is this discomfort when I don't add my opinion to it? Emotions flow through. Maybe sadness arises for no apparent reason. Maybe joy bubbles up. Maybe irritation, boredom, peace. You don't try to keep the good ones or get rid of the bad ones. You just sit in the middle of your human experience, fully here, fully present. This is what Dogen called dropping off body and mind. Not getting rid of them, but no longer being confined by your idea of them. Your body is sitting, but you're not trapped in your body. Your mind is active, but you're not enslaved by your thoughts. Sometimes people ask, how is this different from mindfulness meditation? It's a good question. In mindfulness, you're often watching your experience, noting what's happening. There's still a subtle watcher and something being watched. But in Shikantaza, even that division dissolves. You're not watching your breath, you are breathing. You're not observing your thoughts, thinking is happening. The observer and observed merge into just this moment, just this experience. It's like the difference between watching a dance and disappearing into dancing. Both are valuable. But Shikantaza is interested in the disappearing. Now, your mind might be protesting. This sounds boring. What's the point if I'm not trying to achieve anything? How will I know if I'm making progress? These are the perfect questions. They show how deeply we're conditioned to turn everything into a project. Even spiritual practice becomes another way to improve ourselves, to get somewhere better. But what if you're not a project? What if you're a process? What if the point of sitting isn't to get somewhere, but to be fully where you are? A woman once told me she'd been practicing Shikantaza for months and nothing was happening. I just sit there, she said, frustrated. Thoughts come, thoughts go. I get sleepy. I get restless. Where's the transformation? I asked her, what do you do when you're not meditating? She looked puzzled. What do you mean? I work, I take care of my family, She paused. Her face changed. Oh, she said softly. I've been just living. Without all the drama I used to create. Without constantly evaluating how I'm doing. Just living. That's the transformation of Shikantaza. It's not fireworks. It's not special experiences. It's the gradual falling away of all the extra stuff you add to life. The constant commentary. The perpetual project of self-improvement. The exhausting effort to be somewhere else. Dogen compared it to riding in a boat. When you're rowing, it seems like you're moving the boat through the water. But actually, you, the boat, and the water are all moving together. The whole universe is rowing. When you sit in Shikantaza, it's not you sitting. It's the whole universe sitting as you. The trees outside are sitting with you. The sky is sitting with you. Every ancestor who ever lived is sitting with you. Every descendant who will ever be born is sitting with you. This might sound mystical, but it's the most practical thing in the world. When you stop trying to be separate, you discover you never were. When you stop trying to control your experience, you find a different kind of power, the power of being fully present with what is. And here's something beautiful. Shikantaza doesn't stay on the cushion. Once you learn to just sit, you learn to just walk, just eat, just work, just talk with a friend. Each activity becomes an expression of the same presence, the same completeness. You wash dishes, and it's not to get clean dishes. It's the universe washing dishes through you. You're stuck in traffic, and instead of being frustrated about wasted time, you realize this is your life, right here, in this car. Not a rehearsal, not a mistake. Your actual life. This is why Dogen said, practice and enlightenment are one. Every moment of genuine presence is a moment of enlightenment. Not enlightenment as some special achievement, but enlightenment as your natural state when you stop trying to be elsewhere. The poet Ryokan, who practiced Shikantaza his whole life, wrote, "The flower invites the butterfly with no mind. The butterfly visits the flower with no mind. The flower opens, the butterfly comes. The butterfly comes, the flower opens. I don't know which is host and which is guest." This is the mind of just sitting. No host, no guest. No meditator, no meditation. Just this intimate dance of existence happening by itself, expressing itself as you. Sometimes people practice Shikantaza for years and feel like nothing's happening. Then one day they realize nothing happening is the happening. The absence of trying to get somewhere is itself the arrival. The end of seeking is the finding. But don't take my word for it. Don't turn this into another concept to understand. The only way to know Shikantaza is to do it. Or rather, to let it do you. So right now, wherever you are, you could experiment. Let your body find a comfortable position. Let your breathing be natural. And just be here. Not trying to feel peaceful. Not trying to stop thoughts. Not trying to have an experience. Just sitting in the middle of your life exactly as it is. This is the gift Dogen brought from China. Not a technique to master, but a way of being to remember. Not a practice that leads somewhere, but a practice that celebrates where you already are. It's so simple, it's almost embarrassing. All that seeking, all that effort, all that hope for transformation. And the answer? Just sit. Just be. Just this moment. Just this breath. Just this simple fact of being alive. Nothing special. Everything sacred. Just sitting. Just being. The most ordinary thing in the world. And the most revolutionary. Watch someone preparing tea in the Japanese tea ceremony, and you might wonder why it takes so long to make a simple cup of tea. Every movement deliberate. every gesture precise. The way the cloth folds, the way water pours, the way the whisk moves through the bright green matcha. Is this inefficiency, or is it something else entirely? When Zen came to Japan, it didn't stay in the monasteries. It spilled out into everyday life like tea spreading through water. It transformed how people arranged flowers, designed gardens, wrote poetry, even how they fought with swords. But nowhere is this transformation more visible than in the simple act of drinking tea. The tea ceremony, or chanoyu, embodies a principle called ichi, go ichi. One time, one meeting. This gathering, these people, this moment, it will never happen again exactly like this. Even if the same people meet tomorrow in the same place, it will be different. Tomorrow's tea will be tomorrow's tea. Doesn't that sound like your life? This morning's coffee, today's breakfast, tonight's conversation, each one unique, never to be repeated. But how often do we notice? How often do we treat ordinary moments with the reverence they deserve? The tea master Sen no Rikyu, who perfected the tea ceremony in the 1500s, understood something profound. Enlightenment doesn't only happen on meditation cushions. It happens when you pour water, when you clean a bowl, when you arrange a single flower, when you give your complete attention to the most ordinary acts. There's a story about Rikyu and his teacher. The teacher asked Rikyu to clean the garden path. Rikyu worked meticulously, removing every fallen leaf, every stray pebble. The path was perfect. Then he looked at it, shook a tree so a few leaves fell, and pronounced it finished. His teacher smiled. Rikyu understood. Perfection isn't about control. It's about harmony. A path too clean feels dead. A few fallen leaves say, life is happening here. This is the aesthetic of wabi-sabi that grew from Zen. Finding beauty in imperfection, seeing the profound in the humble, appreciating the worn, the weathered, the incomplete, not as flaws, but as expressions of life's constant change. Look around your own home. That chipped mug you love, the scratched table where your family gathers, the faded photograph that captures a perfect moment. These aren't failures of perfection. They're stories. They're life leaving its mark. The Zen gardens of Japan teach the same lesson in a different language. Rocks and sand, maybe some moss. That's all. But in their simplicity, they say everything. At Ryoanji Temple in Kyoto, 15 rocks sit in a sea of raked gravel. From any viewing angle, you can only see 14. One is always hidden. Visitors spend hours trying to find the position where all 15 are visible. But that's not the point. The hidden rock teaches us something. Life always holds mystery. No matter how much we understand, something remains beyond our grasp. And that's not a failure, it's the nature of things. The garden is complete with its incompleteness. These gardens aren't meant to imitate nature. They're meant to express its essence. A few rocks become a mountain range. Raked sand becomes flowing water. Empty space becomes as important as what fills it, like a poem that says more with less. You can create this spirit anywhere. Clear your desk except for one beautiful object. Arrange 3 flowers instead of a dozen. Leave space in your schedule instead of filling every minute. Let silence have its say in conversations. This aesthetic revolutionized Japanese poetry too. The haiku, 17 syllables capturing a moment, comes straight from Zen's economy of expression. Basho, the great haiku master, was a Zen practitioner. His most famous poem: an old pond. A frog jumps in. The sound of water. That's it. No explanation. No deeper meaning imposed. Just this moment, perfectly itself. The poem doesn't tell you what to feel. It presents an experience and trusts you to receive it. Try it yourself. Right now, capture this moment in the simplest words. What do you notice? The hum of electricity? The weight of your body? The quality of light? Don't make it fancy. Don't make it meaningful. Just say what's here. This is Zen in daily life, not adding extra significance, but finding the significance already present. Not making life sacred, but recognizing it always was. Even martial arts transformed under Zen's influence. The way of the sword became not just about fighting, but about presence. A samurai trained to be so completely here that thought couldn't interfere with action. The sword moves by itself when the swordsman gets out of the way. You might not wield a sword, but you know this experience. When you're fully absorbed in something you love, cooking, gardening, playing music, and suddenly you're not doing it anymore. It's doing itself through you. Time disappears. Self disappears. There's just the activity, perfect and complete. This is what Zen brought to Japanese culture, the understanding that any activity can be a doorway. Arranging flowers becomes meditation. Sweeping becomes prayer. Cooking becomes an offering. Not by adding something spiritual to them, but by doing them with complete presence. The calligraphy master spends decades learning to let the brush move freely, not controlling but channeling. The archer learns to release the arrow without deciding. The potter centers clay by centering themselves. In each art, the same teaching: get out of your own way. But you don't need to master a traditional art. Your daily life is already full of opportunities. Making your bed can be hurried routine or moving meditation. Washing dishes can be annoying chore or intimate contact with the present moment. Walking to your car can be unconscious habit or conscious practice. The difference isn't in the activity. It's in the attention. A student once asked a Zen master, "What did you do before enlightenment?" "Chopped wood, carried water," the master replied. "And what do you do after enlightenment?" "Chop wood, carry water." So what's the difference? Before enlightenment, I dreamed of being elsewhere while chopping wood. Now, I just chop wood. This is the revolution Zen offers. Not a special life, but a special relationship with ordinary life. Not escaping to a monastery, but finding the sacred in your kitchen. Think about your morning routine. The miracle of hot water from a tap. The alchemy of coffee transforming from grounds to awakening. The soft loyalty of a towel. When was the last time you really noticed? In Japan, they have a phrase, mono no aware. The bittersweet awareness of the impermanence of all things. Cherry blossoms are beautiful because they fall. This moment is precious because it's passing. Your life is meaningful because it ends. This isn't depressing, it's liberating. When you know nothing lasts, you stop taking things for granted. Your morning coffee becomes a ceremony. Your commute becomes a journey. Your ordinary Wednesday becomes a gift you'll never receive again. The tea ceremony teaches this through extreme attention to detail. The garden teaches it through space and stone. Poetry teaches it through captured moments. But life itself is the greatest teacher. Every day offers countless opportunities to wake up. Right now, you could pause and make a cup of tea, not while checking your phone or planning your day, just making tea. Notice the weight of the kettle, the sound of water heating, the steam rising, the color changing as tea meets water. This isn't about being slow or inefficient. It's about being present. When you're present, you move through tasks with a different quality. Less rushed, but more effective. Less stressed, but more accomplished. Because you're not wasting energy on mental time travel. The influence of Zen on Japanese culture shows us something important. Spiritual practice doesn't have to look spiritual. It can look like gardening, like serving tea, like writing 3 lines about a frog, like going about your ordinary day with extraordinary attention. Your life is already a work of art. Every day you're composing it with your choices, your attention, your presence or absence. Zen just suggests, be the artist you already are. Bring the same care to loading the dishwasher that Rikyu brought to serving tea. Find the same beauty in your backyard that monks find in temple gardens. Because here's the secret, the sacred doesn't live in temples. It lives in kitchens and offices and grocery stores. It lives wherever you bring your complete attention. It lives in this moment, this breath, this simple act of being alive. The tea is ready. The garden is waiting. Your ordinary life is calling. How will you answer? Picture this scene. Chicago, 1893. The World Parliament of Religions. Victorian ladies in bustles and gentlemen in top hats, gathering to hear about exotic Eastern wisdom. And there, a Japanese Zen master named Soyen Shaku stands to speak. Not about strange rituals or foreign gods, but about the simple truth of looking into your own mind. The audience was polite, but puzzled. Where were the mysterious powers, the exotic ceremonies, This man was talking about sitting quietly and paying attention. Surely there must be more to Eastern enlightenment than that. Little did they know, they were witnessing the first drops of what would become a river. A river that would flow from ancient Asian monasteries into American living rooms, from meditation halls into corporate boardrooms, from monk cells into therapy offices. The story of Zen coming west is really a story about what happens when ancient wisdom meets modern longing. After that parliament, Soyen Shaku's student, D.T. Suzuki, began writing books in English. Not translations of ancient texts, but fresh explanations for Western minds. He had to find new words for experiences English had never named. How do you explain no mind to people who prize thinking above all else? How do you teach just sitting to a culture obsessed with productivity? Suzuki was clever. He knew Americans loved individualism, so he emphasized Zen's direct experience over religious authority. He knew they valued psychology, so he compared meditation to mental health. He knew they were tired of rigid Victorian morality, so he stressed Zen's freedom and spontaneity. And something unexpected happened. The beat poets of the 1950s found in Zen what they'd been looking for. Jack Kerouac wrote about Dharma bums. Allen Ginsberg sat Zazen. Gary Snyder went to Japan and trained in actual monasteries. Suddenly, Zen wasn't just for scholars, it was cool. But coolness can be a trap. Some people thought Zen meant doing whatever you want. No rules, no discipline, just being Zen about everything. They missed that spontaneity comes from discipline, not from its absence. Like jazz musicians who can improvise because they've mastered their instruments. The real transmission came with teachers. Not ideas about Zen, but people who embodied it. In the 1960s, two Japanese teachers arrived who would change everything. Shunryu Suzuki in San Francisco and Hakuin Yasutani in Los Angeles. Suzuki Roshi, as his students called him, was different from what Americans expected. Small, quiet, often funny. He didn't talk about enlightenment much. Instead, he taught people how to sit, how to breathe, how to be present with their lives exactly as they were. "You are perfect as you are," he would say. Then, with a twinkle in his eye, "and you could use a little improvement." This paradox captured something essential. Americans were used to religion telling them they were sinners needing salvation, or self-help telling them they could perfect themselves. Suzuki offered a middle way. You're already Buddha, and you need to practice. Both true at once. His students were hippies and housewives, artists and accountants. They sat together in an old synagogue in San Francisco's Fillmore district. No Asian decorations, no exotic costumes. Just people sitting on cushions, facing the wall, being present with their breath. One student asked, "Roshi, why do we sit facing the wall? Wouldn't it be better to face the beautiful altar?" Suzuki smiled. "When you face the wall, you face yourself. When you face yourself, you face the universe. The wall is your mirror." This was Zen finding its American voice. Direct, practical, stripped of cultural extras, not rejecting tradition but translating it, making it accessible to people who would never wear robes or chant in Japanese. Meanwhile, the counterculture was exploding. Young people questioned everything: war, materialism, conventional success. They were looking for meaning beyond what their parents' world offered. And here was Zen saying, the meaning isn't out there somewhere. It's in this moment. It's in washing dishes mindfully. It's in sitting still while the world spins madly. But Zen in America faced challenges. In Asia, it developed within cultures that valued hierarchy, discipline, and collective harmony. Americans valued equality, freedom, and individual expression. How do you maintain the depth of practice while adapting to such different values? Some teachers tried to recreate Japanese monasteries exactly. Early morning sits, elaborate ceremonies, strict hierarchies. But this felt artificial to many Americans, like wearing a costume that didn't fit. Other teachers went the opposite way. Strip everything down to just meditation. No ceremonies, no traditions, no community structure. But this could feel thin, missing the richness that centuries of practice had developed. The wisdom came in finding a middle way. Keep what serves awakening. Let go of what's merely cultural. Maintain the discipline, but soften the hierarchy. Honor the tradition while speaking to contemporary life. American Zen developed its own flavor. More psychological than Asian Zen, people wanted to understand their minds, not just quiet them. More egalitarian, women became teachers, something rare in Asia. More engaged with social issues, meditation wasn't escape, but preparation for compassionate action. The 1970s and 80s brought growing pains. Some teachers had affairs with students. Some abused alcohol. The same power dynamics that corrupt any institution appeared in Zen centers. Americans had to learn that wearing robes doesn't make someone perfect. That enlightenment and ethics aren't the same thing. These scandals were painful, but ultimately helpful. They forced American Zen to grow up, to develop ethical guidelines, to question blind obedience to teachers, to remember that killing the Buddha includes not making idols of living teachers. By the 1990s, a new generation emerged. American-born teachers who had trained deeply but spoke native English, not just linguistically but culturally. They could reference both ancient koans and modern psychology. They understood American struggles with self-worth, ambition, and anxiety. Zen also began leaving the meditation halls. Jon Kabat-Zinn, trained in Zen, created mindfulness-based stress reduction. Suddenly, meditation was in hospitals. Corporations brought in mindfulness trainers. Athletes used Zen principles for peak performance. The Dharma was going mainstream. Some worried about dilution. If you remove Zen from its spiritual context, does it become just stress reduction? If you teach meditation without mentioning Buddha nature, is something essential lost? but others saw opportunity. Maybe secular mindfulness is a doorway. People come for stress relief and discover something deeper. They start with apps and eventually seek teachers. The Dharma has always been skillful in adapting to what people need. Today, you can find Zen everywhere in America. Traditional monasteries maintain ancient practices. Urban centers offer evening sits for busy professionals. Online sanghas connect practitioners across distances. Prison meditation programs bring practice to the incarcerated. Each expression different, each serving different needs. The question isn't whether this is real Zen. The question is, does it wake people up? Does it reduce suffering? Does it help people discover their true nature? An American student once asked a visiting Japanese master, "Is American Zen authentic?" The master replied, "Is American jazz authentic? It came from Africa, but became something new in America. Not better or worse. Different. Speaking to different hearts in different ways." This is perhaps Zen's greatest teaching for the West. Forms change, essence remains. The cushion might be replaced by a chair. The temple might be someone's garage. The teacher might wear jeans instead of robes. But the pointing to your true nature, that remains the same. What Soyen Shaku began in that Chicago hall continues today. Every time someone stops to breathe mindfully, every time someone questions who's really thinking their thoughts, every time someone discovers that peace isn't somewhere else but right here, the transmission continues. And now it includes you. Listening to these words, you're part of this Western journey, not as a passive recipient, but as an active participant. The Dharma doesn't belong to any culture. It belongs to whoever wakes up to it. The journey west wasn't just geographical. It was a journey into new questions, new expressions, new possibilities. And it's far from over. As long as people suffer, as long as people seek truth, as long as people sit down to face themselves, the journey continues. Where will it go next? That depends on you. So here we are. After all these stories, all these teachings, all these thousands of years of people sitting, seeking, finding, and losing again. And where have we arrived? Right back where we started. With you. Remember that shocking statement that began our journey. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Perhaps now it doesn't sound so violent. Perhaps now you hear the compassion in it. The invitation to stop looking elsewhere for what you already are. Every teacher we've met tonight, from the Buddha holding his flower to Bodhidharma facing his wall, from Huike in the snow to you listening right now, they've all been pointing to the same simple truth. You are what you seek. But knowing this intellectually and living it are different things, aren't they? You can understand that you have Buddha nature, but still wake up anxious. You can know that mind is unfindable, but still get lost in thoughts. You can believe in presence, but still spend most of your day elsewhere. This is why Zen is called a practice, not a philosophy. It's not something you figure out once and you're done. It's something you return to moment after moment, like coming home. And what is home? It's not a place. It's not a state of mind. It's not even a feeling. Home is this moment when you stop trying to be anywhere else. When you stop trying to be anyone else. When you let yourself be exactly what you are, where you are, as you are. A woman once told me she'd been practicing for 20 years and still didn't feel enlightened. "When will I finally get there?" she asked. I asked her to describe her practice. She talked about her daily sits, how her mind had quieted over the years, how she was less reactive, more present, how she found joy in simple things, how she could hold difficulty without being overwhelmed. "But I still don't feel enlightened," she insisted. "What would enlightenment feel like?" I asked. She thought for a long moment. "I guess, peaceful, present, not so caught up in things, able to appreciate life as it is." Then she heard herself, and she laughed. The kind of laugh that comes when you realize you've been looking for your glasses while wearing them. This is the cosmic joke of spiritual seeking. We go looking for home while never having left. We search for peace while standing in it. We hunt for our true nature while it's doing the hunting. Coming home to yourself doesn't mean you'll never feel lost again. It means you recognize lostness as another experience arising in your vast awareness. It doesn't mean you'll never suffer. It means you stop adding the second arrow of resistance to life's inevitable pains. Think about everything we've explored tonight. The flower sermon teaching that truth is simpler than words. Buddha nature showing you're already whole. The unfindable mind revealing freedom from your own thoughts. Each pointing to the same recognition: what you are is enough. What you are is home. But the mind struggles with this simplicity. It can't be that easy, it says. There must be more to do, more to achieve, more to understand. And so we keep seeking, keep striving, keep postponing our homecoming. This is why killing the Buddha is such a profound teaching. It's not just about not depending on teachers. It's about killing every idea that puts your peace somewhere else. Every concept that says you're not ready yet. Every belief that you need to be different to be free. The Buddha you need to kill might be the idea of the perfect meditator. The one who sits in lotus position for hours without a single thought. Or it might be the spiritual person you think you should become, always calm, always wise, always compassionate. These ideals become prisons when we mistake them for requirements. Coming home means embracing your ordinary humanness. Yes, you have Buddha nature. You also have bills to pay and relationships to navigate and bodies that age. Enlightenment includes all of it. Not transcending your humanity, but fully inhabiting it. A Zen saying goes, "Before enlightenment, I was depressed. After enlightenment, I was depressed." But something had changed. Not the experience of depression, but the relationship to it. No longer, I am depressed, but depression is visiting. No longer a solid self having a problem, but an open awareness in which experiences come and go. This shift is so subtle you might miss it, but it changes everything. It's the difference between being in prison and visiting one. The walls might look the same, but you have the key. Right now, as you listen, you might notice something. Behind all your thoughts about whether this is helpful, whether you're understanding correctly, whether you're spiritual enough, behind all that, there's a simple awareness. It's not judging. It's not seeking. It's just here, spacious and present. That's home. That's what every Zen master has been pointing to. That's what you've been looking for in every moment of seeking. And it's been here all along, waiting patiently for you to notice. Coming home doesn't mean your life suddenly becomes perfect. It means you stop needing it to be. Problems still arise, but they're workable. Pain still comes, but it's bearable. Because you're no longer alone with it. You have the vast space of your true nature to hold it all. The practice now is simply remembering. In the middle of an argument, remembering spaciousness. In the grip of anxiety, remembering breath. In the rush of daily life, remembering presence. Not as another thing to achieve, but as a gentle returning to what's always here. Some days you'll forget completely. You'll get lost in stories, caught in reactions, convinced you're separate and struggling. That's okay. That's part of the human experience. The moment you remember, you're home again. No shame, no blame, just a simple returning. This is the ultimate kindness, to stop being at war with yourself. To stop demanding you be other than you are. To recognize that even your flaws arise from Buddha nature. Even your mistakes are perfect expressions of life learning about itself. As we end this journey together, I want to leave you with this. You don't need to go to Japan or find a teacher or master ancient texts. Everything you need is already here. In your breath. In your heartbeat. In this ordinary moment that's secretly extraordinary. The Buddha on the road. Let him go. The idea that enlightenment is elsewhere. Release it. The belief that you're not ready. Thank it for trying to protect you, then set it free. What remains when you've let go of everything extra? Just this. Just you. Just home. And home, it turns out, has been here all along. Waiting in your breath. Resting in your heartbeat. Shining through your eyes. Being these very words and the silence between them. Welcome home. And so, dear friend, we arrive at an ending that isn't really an ending at all. As you rest here in these final moments together, you might notice something beautiful. Nothing has been added to you. No special knowledge has been inserted into your mind. No magical transformation has occurred. And yet, something feels different. Perhaps it's simply that you've remembered. Remembered what you knew as a child before anyone told you that you weren't enough. Remembered what every flower knows without trying. Remembered what the stars have been whispering all along. You are already home. The journey we've taken tonight, through ancient China and Japan, through koans and cushions, through confusion and clarity, it all leads to this moment. Not a special moment, just this one. The one where you're breathing, the one where you're alive, the one that's perfectly ordinary and completely sacred. Tomorrow, you'll wake up and life will continue. The same challenges will be there, the same joys, the same ordinary miracles of coffee and sunlight and the faces of those you love. But perhaps you'll meet them differently. Perhaps when anxiety arises, you'll remember Huike searching for his troubled mind. Perhaps when you're washing dishes, you'll feel the warmth of the water like a tea master preparing for ceremony. Perhaps when you're lost in thought, you'll smile, remembering that even this is Buddha nature playing at being confused. Or perhaps you'll forget everything we've shared. That's okay too, because what matters isn't in memory. It's in your bones now. It's in your breath. It's in the way you already know how to come home to this moment whenever you remember. The ancient Zen masters would end their teachings with a dedication of merit. They'd say, "May whatever benefit has come from these words be shared with all beings. May all beings find peace. May all beings discover their true home." But you know the secret now. They already have. They just might not remember yet. Just as you forgot and remembered and will forget and remember again. This is the endless beginning. Each moment a fresh start. Each breath a new chance to wake up. From all of us here at Moonmine Temple, thank you for taking this journey. Thank you for your practice, whether it's been years or whether it began tonight. Thank you for your willingness to question, to sit, to be present with what is. The moon continues its ancient path across the sky. Your mind, like that moon, sometimes full and bright, sometimes hidden by clouds, always whole, always shining, always home. May you rest well. May you wake gently, and may you always remember the Buddha you've been seeking has been sitting where you're sitting all along. Gate, gate, Paragate, Parasargate, Bodhisvaha. Gone, gone, gone beyond, gone completely beyond. Awakening, so be it.